Hello, Essential Education students, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are happy that you are here today joining us for yet another exciting session about transferable skills. Yes, we've talked about transferable skills in the past as those things that you apply to your study as you are continuing your education. Maybe, as many of our students are, you're studying for your high school equivalency exams, the GED, HiSET, or TASC. And transferable skills are those skills that you are using now to study and prepare for your exams, those skills that you'll use in that important test-taking environment, those educational skills that are, yes, able to be transferred from the classroom or independent study environment to job success and to real world application. And as an educator of over 20 years, it's one of my favorite things to talk about because we all want to know that our efforts matter, that they're going to pay off. And at minimum, I tell students, well, whether you like it or not, these are the things you have to study to pass the test. But at any point that I can sell somebody on the value of a skill in general as not just something that you're going to need to pass a test and then it's one and done, but it's a skill or a learned habit or an area of study that is useful in everyday life, that can be applied from one aspect of your daily interactions to another. And today's topic definitely is. And as we talk about this topic today, I'm going to kind of halvesy everything, where as we talk about individual points, I'll talk about how you can apply the skill in study and testing and how you can apply the skill in work and life. So hopefully we're covering the whole umbrella of folks that are joining us today, whether you are still studying for your high school equivalency exams or you are ready to take those next steps in career success. These are important things to talk about across the board. So, what's today's topic? What transferable skill are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about problem solving. Yes, your ability to solve problems is so important for multiple reasons. But first, as we often do, let's talk about what? Let's define problem solving. What is problem solving? Problem solving is your ability to do three things: identify the problem, come up with a course in action, and put it into place. Yes, to figure out, okay, something's wrong. What is it? What can I do about it? What are some ideas of things that I can put into play? And then let's take action and let's put that action play into place. Why is it important to be a problem solver? Well, in study and testing, you're going to be given questions. You're going to be given, yes, problems and a set of directions to address or answer that question or that problem. That critical thinking that's involved, that reasoning skill that you know those test makers are after, that involves problem solving. At its foundation, that's what you're doing every time you take a test. You are solving a problem. Now, in work and career life, problem solving is hands down a top 5 skill. It is an in-demand skill that employers are looking for when they hire employees. They want to know, can this person look at what's wrong, see what's working and what's not working, and if they identify something that's not working, how can they work to fix or implement, yes, that action plan to solve that problem? And in life, problem solving happens every day, right? You get a flat tire, you're in traffic and you have to reroute and find a different route to get from point A to point B. You have, 80 million things to do in a day and only a certain number of hours to do it. We problem solve all day long, and your ability to develop your own problem skills will be a huge advantage as you're studying, as you're searching for a new career, and just as you are developing as a person in life. So let's talk about 6 key skills. Yes, 6, you know I like to count things on my hands. 6 key skills to be a better problem solver. The first step in being a problem solver is to identify the problem. Is it something that's simple? Is it something that's obvious? Do you see it right off the bat? Or do you have to dig a little bit to see what the root of the problem is? A lot of times we get caught up in the symptoms or the fallout from the problem, but it's not always easy to narrow down what that problem is. So identifying and specifically calling out that problem is essential. Is there more than one problem that you need to address? Digging in will help you to find that. And if you're working as a team in a workplace environment, does everyone there on the team agree on what the problem is? You may see the problem as one thing while someone else may see the problem as another thing. And the team needs to agree on what that problem is. What is the key problem in order to solve it? Now, in testing, the best way to figure out the problem, what you need to do, is to restate the question. Look at those test directions. Restate what those test makers are specifically asking you to do. This is especially important when some of that test maker language comes in. All of the following are true except. All of the following are false except. You need to rephrase that question in your head so that it makes sense to you so that you can go after it with purpose. You have to identify the problem, whether it's for study and testing or for work and life, before you can do anything else. Then you can move on to step number 2 for building these problem-solving skills, and that is doing your research. This is your fact-finding mission. In testing, that's using what you already know. Maybe the test maker's asking about something that you've studied or the steps to a process that you've committed to memory, and you're ready to go and you're ready to answer that problem. It also means using what is given to you in the test. Remember, the GED, the HiSET, and the task rely primarily on the information, the text, the data, the graphs, the charts that are right there in the test. You don't need to understand and have this huge grasp of every single little detail, because in theory, everything you need to know for the test is right there in the test itself. So you're taking what you know, that outside context, the big ideas, and you are adding that to the research, yes, what is given to you in the text, to see if you can answer the problem. Now, in work and in life, doing your research to answer that problem may mean looking at the history of that problem. Has that problem happened in the past? Is this something you've dealt with before? It might involve asking questions. It might involve, again, getting the team together and saying, hey, why do we think this happened? What kind of went off kilter here? Have we faced this before? Is this something that's happened in the past? Do your research and go on that fact-finding mission, because it's only after you've done that borderline, baseline, foundational research that you can go on and look for a solution. And this is where you get to use your creativity and you get to brainstorm. In a testing environment, you're going back into the recesses of your mind, think about those big ideas and how they can now be applied to the information that the test makers have given you in the test. If you're in a work environment, then maybe someone's looking for you to have a different idea to a common problem that they've had in the past. Maybe you were hired for your creativity and the things that you bring to the table. This is where you get to brainstorm with your teammates and say, okay, now that we've identified the problem, we know the history, we've done a little bit of research, what are some solutions? How can we kind of come up with some ideas? Knowing that it's good to have a solid plan, but it's also okay to have a plan B. Hey, we might want to think about this, but we also want to think about this other option. And with those options on the table, Those are good things. It's good to have options. It's good to have ideas. It's good to have things to choose from. But in order to be a clear problem solver, you have to move on to step 4, and that is to make a decision, to be decisive. You have to narrow down those options of all the choices and plans of action that you have in order to make the best decision. Now, in testing, that's a valid test-taking skill, correct? A popular question type is that multiple choice question. So if you're given 4 or 5 answer choices, your goal, first of all, is to narrow down that playing field. You want to narrow down your choices so that you're not looking at 4 or 5 different choices, but you're looking at 2 or 3 different choices. And that is a test-taking skill. And as a side note, we have a test-taking coaching session coming up here in the next little bit. You can either access that live or on demand in our past coaching sessions that will dive into some of these test-taking skills and using those test skills to make an informed decision. Putting yourself through the paces of making a guessing checklist, getting used to some common things that test makers throw in there as distractors so that you can narrow down those answer choices to make the best one. And then in life, you want to make that pros and cons list. You know, what are some possible solutions? We have a plan A, but we also have a plan B. Maybe depending on the size of your team, you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. But together as a team, you need to make a decision and own that decision. One of the best headmasters I've ever had the opportunity to work for in an educational environment had a philosophy. If you were on his administrative team, there were no bad suggestions. There were no wrong ideas. We would sit around a conference table and everybody would throw out a plan of action and we would write them down on a board and we would slowly narrow them down. And even if your idea wasn't chosen, his primary rule was that we've all had a chance to talk about it. We've all had a chance to be creative and brainstorm it. But once we make a decision as a group, we own that decision when we walk out of this room with positivity and with certainty. So as you ID the problem, as you do your research, as you look for solutions, eventually you have to narrow down and make a decision in both testing and in solving problems in work and life. And then what's next? You put that plan into action. This is where you, as a test taker, click the answer you want, and what do? You move on. You click the answer you want, and you move on. And you do want to avoid rushing to that decision. You want to make sure that you've made a strong, educated choice in your answer choices. And if you're solving a problem in work and life, you don't want to rush and make an emotional decision. In a testing environment, that means reading through, making sure that you haven't just jumped to the first question or answer that stood out at you. And in work and life, you want to make sure that you have fully vetted, you fully talked about, you fully researched, you've done all of these foundational things before you rush to make a decision. Because when you rush to answer a question and you rush to make a decision, the same thing is true. It may not be your best effort. It may not be your best choice. So put that plan of action in play, but make sure you're doing so on well-grounded footing with the knowledge that you are making this intentional choice, not out of emotion and not out of panic. I'm wasting time. I need to make an answer choice. Make sure that you are fully researching and making a solid choice and putting that plan into action. And then what's left? Step 6 in building these problem-solving skills is to be an evaluator. Once you have put that plan into action, ask yourself, what happened? How did it go? In testing, that's really easy because you know if you got it correct or you got it incorrect. Was it right or was it wrong? In your life and work situations, you may have to say, okay, was this problem that we identified here at the beginning solved? How did it work? Was it helpful? But in either of those situations, your primary question is, did it solve the problem? Did it fill in the gap? Did it answer the blank? And then what we can do is we can learn from those choices. See, evaluators don't just look and say, oh, got it right, got it wrong, oh, worked, didn't work. Evaluators look and say, okay, this worked or it didn't work. What were the reasons why it worked or the reasons why it didn't work? And what can we learn from that? How can we use this information to move forward? In study and testing, that type of feedback is essential. It's why I am a huge proponent of practice tests. And evaluators use those practice tests not only to see, yes, test your testing skills, put those lessons into play and make sure you're holding yourself accountable. Yes, all of that is important. But also, evaluators look at that and say, okay, well, I missed a couple of questions here. Why did I miss them? And they go back and they dig a little bit more and they figure out why they missed those questions. In other words, they learn from their mistakes, and there is value in doing that in work and life as well. It's one of those reasons that employers want problem solvers. Yes, they want the problems to be solved. They don't want to deal with problems, but they also want people who are willing to learn. They're willing to put themselves and their ideas out there, and they are willing to learn. So you've got these 6 key steps to solving problems, whether that's in testing or that's in work and life in general. But what are the skills that help you develop the insight to ID the problem? What are skills that help you develop that mind for research and evaluation? Well, we've got some things for you to consider. The first is creativity. You've heard that phrase, thinking outside the box. One of the most dangerous things that you can do in starting a career or starting in a job is to develop this mindset of, well, I'm just going to do this, or we're just going to do this as a team because this is the way we've always done it. It's a very sticky place to be, to say this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to continue to do it, because life is always changing. Things are always evolving, and you need to roll and be flexible with those changes. We've seen a lot in the last year and a half, and employers want people that are flexible, and they've got that creative mind to think, okay, well, this may have worked in the past, but how can we move from good to great? How can we make it better? So that type of creativity is needed. Creativity is also needed in your study and testing. I talk to a lot of students who are frustrated and they say, you know what, I don't think I'm a good test taker because it hasn't worked out for me in the past. But maybe there's a creative solution for how you can study better, how you can creatively get some of these test-taking tools in your belt, so to speak. And we have tons of resources to help you with that here at Essential Education. So one of the underlying skills to being a problem solver is creativity. Another one we've mentioned several times today in that aspect of work and life, and that is your ability to work with a team. Problem solvers have to be able to work with a team. You have to be able to put yourself aside and realize that you might have an idea of what the problem is and how to solve it, but that old adage of 2 heads are better than 1 really is true. Someone that comes alongside you in your team may help you narrow down that problem a little bit more. They may come alongside and say, that's a great idea. Let's combine it with my idea and come up with a solid solution that we can all work with, and may be the best solution all around. You have to be able to work in a team. Yet another skill that employers are after. Problem solving is also built by cultivating and adapting to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a huge buzzword right now, and it's true. It's your ability to read people, to read a situation. It's your ability to put yourself and your ego aside and be an active listener to take in all of those ideas within that team. It's what helps you to be a good team player. Your ability to have emotional intelligence, it's called EI. Because when you have that radar, you have that emotional intelligence, you are able to push back and see the big picture more frequently. You are able to push back and say, oh, I was just looking at this problem through this tiny little lens, and I need to be open to the whole situation. I need to see how this person is feeling about it. I need to see how it works with this person, and we can best put a plan into action when we all work together. So listening actively to others and letting go of your ego is huge when it comes to problem solving, especially in teams in a workplace environment. The other skill that's really important for problem solving is logic. A lot of times we call it common sense, asking yourself, does this make sense? Is this really the best choice? And it really is a key skill that you're developing, whether you realize it or not, if you're studying for the GED, the HiSET, or the task, because these tests are designed to make you think. Again, the test makers don't expect you to know everything about all of these subjects. What they want you to do is take your life experiences, your studies, and your lesson knowledge to this point and add it to the information that they give you in the test, and then think and reason and come up with logical conclusions based on that information. So logic is a key problem-solving skill for testing, and it's a key problem-solving skill for life. Asking yourself, with what I know and the information that I now have, does this make sense? Is this solution that I'm coming up with a sensible, logical solution? And then here's another one, the last skill we're going to address today, and that is to be decisive. We can all tend to hem-haw around a little bit. I don't know. I don't trust myself to make this right decision. I don't know. Is it the best choice? That's where you go back to identifying the problem, doing your research, not acting out of emotion, making sure that you're taking in all the details, you know exactly what you need to address, and making the best decision that you can. Part of being a good problem solver is doing so in a timely manner. Again, not rushing, but also once a decision needs to be made, you make it. And you own that choice, and you own the consequences of that choice, whether that's an individual choice that you're making personally, or whether that is a choice that you are making as a whole group in a teamwork environment. So to review those skills that will help you be a better problem solver, be creative, be willing to work with a team, build that emotional intelligence by putting your IQ, or your ego, sorry, not IQ, you want to keep your IQ, by putting your ego aside, by being an active listener, using those common sense, logic-based skills, and being decisive in your decisions. Make them timely, don't make them reactive. Make them intentional, don't make them reactionary. We hope that today's time together was helpful, because problem solving truly is a transferable skill. You can use it in study and testing, but you can also use it to move forward in your career goals and in your life goals as well. And at Essential Education, we want to help you with both of those things. We are committed to your success. As always, we have a team of advisors who are able to meet with you and discuss how we can help you take that next step, no matter what chapter or no matter what stage you are in. Reach out, we're happy to help. We'll see you again soon.